Good morning, Brother Chad Long, Delhi Baptist Church with you again today. So we completed our study of Psalm 37, and if we were going to study through the Psalms, it'd be hard to narrow any down. There's so many good ones. Some of them are tough. I mean, they're not for all people at all times. Some of the Psalms are very convicting. Some are more of a grieving and just a person that's in distress. Some of them are glorifying God, and there's so many, and they fit so many scenarios. I would love someday to do an in-depth study of the Psalms with our people at our church, but as of now, I'm just trying to feel led of the Lord to go to certain ones at certain times, and there's no rhyme or reason of man going into this. It's just as I feel led. So with that being said, we finished Psalm 37, and I felt like it's interesting. It's fascinating to me because looking back over the videos that I've posted, the things that were going on either during the videos, the same days that I was recording those, or even days after I had recorded the video, meaning the videos came first. For instance, back a few Sundays ago, I did a message on Obadiah and how we ought to treat our brother, and how the wickedness is rampant, and it's crazy looking at what's going on in our world today. We really need to learn how to love one another and treat our brother right, even when our brother doesn't treat us right. And look, Jesus made it abundantly clear when his disciples said, "Who's my neighbor?" He made it very clear in the Good Samaritan story who our neighbor is. We are to love everyone. I don't care what your background or culture or ethnicity is. There's only one race, and we're supposed to love everyone in it. So I hate that all that is going on, and I don't really want to discuss it because I don't have anything to add. I just wish that people would love the Lord and love each other. That's the 2 commandments he gave us. And it is apparent that they can't do that, some of them. And it's because they don't know him. I know that with all of my ransomed soul. It's because they don't know him that they cannot show the love and respect and compassion of Christ. And look, I'm so sorry about what happened to Mr. Floyd. And I said this earlier on, and I'll say it one more time, and I'm not going to mention it anymore. He was not a model citizen. He was not. He wasn't anybody's poster child of how he ought to act. But what happened to him, he did not deserve. What happened to him is a tragedy. And I don't care how many crimes he may have committed. You cannot handcuff a person and then treat them the way he was treated. So I won't defend the police officers involved. I won't even begin to. But just because something bad happens, and it happens to people every day, it doesn't always make the news, but it happens to people every day. Just because something bad happens does not give others the right to react in a negative or hateful manner. You're no better than the ones who did that. If you're acting like that, you're not a bit better than that officer that you hate, that you're upset with. What he did is wrong, and he will be punished for that. And hopefully so will the others involved. But he's not the only one that's ever done wrong, and by acting the way that some people are acting right now, they're no better than he was. No better at all. So I didn't mean to get on that. Forgive the rant and the soapbox. I was looking at something to try to get my mind off of all this and just remember who it is that's in control and what he's been showing us since creation. And the Lord had already led me here, but it just took me a while to get back to it. Psalm 19 is where we're going to be for a couple of days. This is not a long psalm. It's 14 verses. I can do that in 2 days, maybe 3, depending on how bogged down I get in commentary. But the Lord will work that out too. But I want you to remember this. There are some psalms that are perfect for certain things. This was considered a morning psalm of David because it glorified God and his creation, and especially in the morning. I think it's Psalm 8 that's regarded as a night psalm because it focuses more on the things of the night. So if you wanted a good practice, and I'm not telling you to do this, but it wouldn't be a bad practice, you could read and study and recite this psalm every morning, and there'd be nothing wrong with that. You could read and recite Psalm 8 every evening, and there would be nothing wrong with that. And you would have yourself a morning and evening psalm to glorify God and to brighten your day and to study some scripture. So it's just a suggestion, but we're going to get into this. Psalm 19:1 says this: "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork." It's apparent in Romans 1, and I'm tempted to turn there, but I won't. I'll paraphrase. When God said that he's made manifest in the things he's created so that we are without excuse. And I know that's not verbatim, and that's okay. What it means, what Paul is saying, is similar to what this verse says. The heavens declare the glory of God. You cannot look. I guess you can. But being reasonable and truthful, you can't look at the world around you and the creation of it and not realize it was created. This did not just blow up and appear. I don't care what these scientists say. They have no evidence for their theories, and the theories are based on ignorance and a desire to deny God. You don't like him, you don't want to serve him, that is your God-given right. If you want to say, "I want no part of you, Lord," you can do that. Satan did it. But to deny his existence is just unforgivable. I don't know why anybody with a reasonable brain would ever deny that there is a God and that he did create all that we see as far as the world. He either directly created everything we know of, or he gave us the materials and the knowledge to create it. But either way, by default, he's responsible for all things. "And the heavens declare his glory, and the firmament showeth his handiwork." The firmament, as I understand it, is the sky. So you can look at the sky and you can see his handiwork in the daytime or the nighttime. During certain times of day, you can see the silver lining around the clouds, and it's beautiful. Sunrise and sunset both are just beautiful. Even in the middle of the day, I guess some days are prettier than others, but even in the middle of the day, you can look up and see the work of God. And so the firmament shows his handiwork. Verse 2 says, "Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge." This is interesting because, well, I'll read verse 3. "There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard." In other words, creation has its own language. And it's a language that is understood by every language we know. It doesn't matter if you were born in Germany or Russia or Greece or Turkey or Iran or Iraq or Syria or Jordan. It doesn't matter where you were born. It does not matter where you live or what language you speak. The language of creation is a universal language. And all you have to do is be still and be quiet and look at the handiwork of God to know that he exists and that everything he has done, he did by his mighty and glorious sovereign power. It was not, I don't know how anybody with a straight face and a claim to have a brain can say that any of this just appeared out of nowhere. You know, I would have more respect for somebody ascribing to the thought of aliens. I would have more respect for somebody who claimed the aliens created it than I do for somebody who believes in a big bang. It just appeared, blew up out of nothingness. That is an insult to my intelligence. Obviously, God created it, and if you don't want to accept God, you can do whatever you want to do. But it's just sad that we have to make that statement or explain that. But this is talking about the language of creation and how every day it utters speech. Every day, if you would listen, God will reveal himself in the things he created. That's what's neat, is it hasn't run out. It hasn't stopped exhibiting itself. You know, this world and the things we can see with our eyes are better witnesses than Christians are. Because a Christian might once in a while talk about his Creator, but the creation speaks of it every day without fail if people would just listen to the language. So anyway, day unto day utter speech, night unto night showeth knowledge. You can reference the stars, but I don't think that's just talking about the stars or the moon. There's a lot of other things at night. There's critters that God created at night. There's habitats and symbiotic relationships that rely on one another in the day and the night. And things that have to happen and have to be created within a reasonable amount of time of each other for everything to work. One example is the insects, particularly bees, and the flowers. The bees take the pollen and they fertilize the plants with it. You know, those two created things need each other. And there are many examples. I'm not a scientist, and I don't have a long laundry list of examples in front of me to share with you, but that's one that just leaps into my mind. There are so many others. I think it's interesting that buzzards, or whatever the proper name for them is, can eat things that would kill you or I. I'm talking about rancid, rotten meat. And that thing, a scientist would tell you that thing evolved that way, and that is just retarded. The Lord created them to where they can eat things we can't eat. And most other carnivores cannot eat. And most other birds will not eat. So it's just another example of the wonder of creation, how it speaks the language every day, and the language is screaming, God, God, God. How wonderful, how marvelous, how awesome He is. Verse 4 says, their line has gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. There's actually a reference from Romans 10:18 I'll share with you, because I have it handy. It says, and this is a response to verse 17 that says, so then faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. But I say, have they not heard? Yes, verily, their sound went into all the earth, and their words unto the ends of the world. Their sound. The glory of creation has been speaking of itself since God created it. And so their line, and that's like a chorus line, goes out through all the earth. Their words to the end of the world. In them hath He set a tabernacle for the sun. Now, this tabernacle is an example or an analogy. It's not a literal tabernacle. But God has given the sun a place to be seen and appreciated for a period of time. Every day, unless you just have a really cloudy day, the sun appears and it has its tabernacle, so to speak. Its spot where it can be studied, appreciated, and it should never be worshipped, but looking at the sun, not good for your eyes, so don't do it very long. Looking at the sun is another way to recognize the awesome power of God. And that's all it is. It's not something for you to worship. It's not something for you to idolize. It's not something for you to make songs or statues about. It's just something to remind us of the Almighty God who created it. So this word tabernacle it just means, just as God had a tabernacle to dwell, the sun has a place to dwell, and it's in the sky, and it's in its spot for the purpose that God put it there for. Any closer and we'd all be scorched. Any further away we'd all freeze to death. God put it exactly where it needed to be in relation to this earth, and that wasn't done on accident either. I don't care what these idiotic scientists say. I wish one of them would call me, and I wish we could sit down over a meal and have a nice civil discussion, and I would just love to have them explain to me. I'd like to see their data, their proof that the sun and the earth just materialized. And by the way, I already know they have none. They have none. They can't answer simple, straight, honest questions. What they do is divert. If you ask somebody with so many degrees behind their name, they might as well be a thermometer. Some doctor so-and-so, such and such. You ask him any of these simple, honest questions about the origins of the earth and the universe, rather than answer you directly, he'll just throw big words at you and try to redirect you to something else because they have no evidence of their theories. None. But I didn't mean to get on that. I'm just saying the song is sang by creation itself. Verse 5 says, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race. There's a couple of analogies given to us by David. David is describing the sun the way it comes up. And what a magnificent sight that is. And most of us will agree, if you get up early enough to see it, that a sunrise is a beautiful, marvelous, wonderful thing to admire and to appreciate. Still not something to worship, but something that can be admired and appreciated and observed. Well, he compares it to a bridegroom coming out of his chamber. Now, I'm assuming that's the day after the wedding, after he's been with his bride, and he gets up for that next day, and he's chipper and joyful and happy because he's married and he's spent his first night with his new bride, and now he's off to do whatever work he has for that day, and he's whistling as he goes. This is an analogy of the sun and how it comes up magnificently and seemingly in a good mood. And apparently David was having a good day, a beautiful day. It wasn't cloudy and wasn't raining. Obviously, his comparison to the sun with a bridegroom coming out of his chamber is a happy and cheerful one. So apparently it's a beautiful sunrise and a beautiful day. And he just got up on the right side of bed and wanted to share with us what the Lord laid on his heart. He also gives us the example of a strong man to run a race. Hey, a guy who knows he can outrun everybody in the race is in a good mood to on your mark, get set type of deal. So he gives us these two analogies, but what he's trying to paint the picture of is a happy and joyful son who is created by God and is there to remind us of the God that created it. It's sad that so many cultures have worshipped the sun, the Egyptians and certain Native American tribes, and others even, Aztecs and Incas and others, because it never should have been worshipped. It should have reminded us of who we are to worship. Its magnificence pales in comparison to the Creator who made it. But David points it out as being happy and excited and up and ready to go out and do its job. Verse 6, his going forth, and he's talking about the sun, is from the end of the heaven, and his circuit unto the ends of it, and there is nothing hid from the heat thereof. In other words, it's got a track it runs on. We know this. It rises in the east, it sets in the west, it does it every day, and it will until the Lord's through with it doing that. And while it's up there, you don't hide from its heat. If it gets good and hot outside, you can today. We got air-conditioned houses. In David's day, it was limited what you could do to remove yourself from the heat. They did not have air conditioning like we're spoiled to, and maybe we don't need it either. Maybe if we had to live out there with the elements a little more than we do, we wouldn't forget to appreciate the glory of God. In fact, I'm convinced that's why the devil wants us in the house, quarantined or not. He wants us in the house in front of tablets and computers and TVs and movies and Hollywood and everything but being outside looking at creation. Because the devil knows if you're out there looking at it, you'll remember to admire and honor the one who created it. And he wants that to be the furthest thing from your mind. If you want to do something good, get outside and admire what God created and remember who created it. I'm going to read verse 7, but I'm going to close because this moves into a new section of the psalm, and I'm not going to go into it now. I just want to read it for a stopping point. The law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. I'm a simple man. You don't get much more basic than me. If I have any wisdom, it's in the Lord, and the Lord makes that wisdom perfect because it's based on Him and not the world. Look, I hope I've given you something to reflect on. I hope I've given you a way to magnify your day and your God. I am going to cut this short because I'm trying to make this shorter, not longer. But it's been a privilege to get to visit with you this morning. I hope that you'll be blessed and honor God and pray for me as I pray for you. I love you. Have a wonderful day.